Good day, students. My name is Odufeso Tajudeen, your economics teacher. Today, we want to discuss on public finance. What did I say? Public finance. Under that, we are going to look at the objectives and sources of government revenue. At the end of this class, students, you should be able to define public finance. You should be able to state any five objectives of public finance. You should be able to define government revenue. Mentions two types of government revenue. Then list any four sources of government revenue. Now, what is public finance? What do you understand by public finance? Public finance may be defined as the aspects of economy, as the scope of economy, or we can call it as branch of economy, which deal with government revenue and expenditure. Can be defined as aspects or branch of economy which deal with government revenue and expenditure. It's actually deal with how government generate money and how they spend the money. And that is what we call public finance. Public finance is the management of country revenue, expenditures, and debts loan. The debt load through various government and quasi-government institute or government institution. It's talking about how the management of a country or a government agency generates money, how they spend the money, how they go out about debts through the various government or any government parastatals. Okay, that is what we call public finance. It's talking about how government uh, deal with the expenses and how they generate money. Now, let's look at the objectives of public finance. Revenue generation, of course, and that is the one of the main objectives of public finance. The government must be able to generate money, so that they can have money to do what the country needed. Then to improve balance of payments. Then to determine the price stabilization. To equitable distribution of income. Good fiscal policy. Provision of employments. Satisfactory of needs of citizen needs. That is the objectives of public finance. Look at this chart, students. Public finance is the study of finance related to government entities. It revolves around the role of government, income, and expenditure in a country. And we have a lot of scopes, of public finance. We have public income. We are talking about how governments generate money, maybe through tax or loan. They were talking about public expenditure, money spent by government entity on health, education, agriculture, or anything, hospitals, and so on and so forth. Then we also have public debts. Public debt arises when public expenditure exceed public income. It becomes a debt. When your expenditure exceed or is more than your income, it becomes debts. They also have financial administration, which include preparation, passing, and implementation of government budget and various government policy. Then under that we have functions, the roles of a government that they need to play under public finance: allocation functions, distribution functions, and stabilization functions, which I have explained under the objectives of public finance. Now, students, look at these charts showing the role of government on the issue of income sources and expenditure. That is how governments generate money. You can see through taxes, then through borrowing. Then how they spend the money. They spend the money on education. They spend the money on defense. They spend the money on healthcare. They spend the money on agriculture. They spend the money on war. They spend the money on health. You can see the role of government, how they use our money, how to generate money, and how they use the money for. Public finance analysis government income and expenses to determine an economy efficiency, of course. And this chart, it actually discuss our public finance, and I hope you understand very well. Now let's move on, students. Types of government revenue. There are two types of government revenue: capital revenue, or we call it irregular, or we call it extraordinary source of revenue. Two, recurrent revenue, or you call it regular source of revenue. That is two types of government revenue that we have. Now let's just look at this. Government expenditure. What is government expenditure? This is refers to the total expenses by public authorities at all level administration in the country. It's talking about the total expenses that government at all level of administration in a country, how they spends our money, how our money is being spent, is talking about government expenditure. Now let's move to the types of government expenditure. We have two types also, under government expenditure. We have capital expenditure. Government spend money on capital, expenditure, such as buildings of schools is a typical example of capital expenditure. Buildings of bridges, construction of bridges is also what you call capital project or capital expenditures. Hospitals infrastructures and other permanent instruments, you know, and so on and so forth. They are called capital expenditure. Then recurrent expenditure, that is the expenses that governments spend all the time. Payments or money spent all the time by government, such as salary. Salary, government pay salary every month. They pay salaries. They pay electricity bill every month. They also maintains all things that need to be maintained in the country, and they use the money. Those examples are what you call recurrent expenditure. Those expenses that government do often and often, daily, every day, every week, every month, they are called recurrent what? Expenditure. Okay, let's move on to the aims and objectives of government expenditure. I hope you are jotting down, students, because we are still going to ask you questions. We are going to make use of our plicards so that you will know the answer. Make sure you jot down, students. Okay? Aims and objectives of government expenditure. General administration. They use those money for general administration. Government spend money in maintaining the civil servant or civil service, the maintaining various government departments, in maintaining political appointees, in maintaining the armed forces and the police, in maintaining the legislature, in maintaining the judiciary, then the embassies outside the country and the executives. And these are what government make the money for general administration. Then we also have economic service. Government use they spend money on economic service such as agriculture, such as trade, such as industry, mining, power station, communication, forestry, and so on and so forth. They also spend money on social services such as infrastructural facilities. Infrastructural what? Facilities like road, communication, and so on and so forth, like education, healthcare delivery, markets, recreational facility or recreational center, environmental sanitation. These are what government use our money for social services. They also use our money for transfer services. Transfer what? Services such as servicing of public debts, paying back of money that we have borrowed, granting of loan to local authorities, payment of pensions, loan lends to friendly nation, and so on and so forth. Then let's move to the sources of government revenue. How does government generate money? They generate money through taxes. They generate money through loan, grants and aids, from license giving, then for savings, rents and rates, fine, fee pay, by fine and royalties, earning for government investment. So these are how government generate money to the pocket of the government, and we have discussed how they spend the money. Students, let's talk about the factors contributing to the increase in government expenditure. Governments do spend money all the time, all the time, all the time. Now, let's look at the factors that contribute to the increase in government expenditure. One, population growth. Uh, Once the population, the country continue to grow, government uh, will continue to spend. As the population of the country grow, the government will continue to spend a lot, a lot. Then the inflation also contributes to the increase of government expenditure. When there is inflation, and like what is happening now, inflation is a persistent rise in the price of good, generally, and that is what is happening now. Then unemployment also contribute to the increase in the government expenditure. When there's no job, government will continue to spend money. Then poverty, the level of poverty contribute to the increase of a government expenditure. Then financial of democratic also contributes to the increase of government expenditure. Then social sovereignty payments also contribute to the increase of government expenditure. Then rise in the national debts. Igbese all the time, from the money we borrow outside the country all the time, government will, it will increase the government expenditure all the time. The economic development also will lead to the increase in the government expenditure, because if we want our nation to be developed economically, government need to spend money on the development. Then expenditure on wars, money we spend on war, then cost of administration, defense security expenses, and so on and so forth, will increase the government's expenditure. Then I hope, students, you understand the topic very well. Do you understand? Oh, beautiful. Can you answer this question? All right. What is public finance? Okay. State any five objectives of public finance. What is government revenue? What is government expenditure? Mention any two types of government revenue, and so on and so forth. Yes, student, take this as an assignment. You can do it at the back of your notes, or you do it on WhatsApp and send it to me on my WhatsApp line for the purpose of correction. Thank you, student, and God bless you. Bye bye.